The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Everybody, welcome to Triversity Talk. Now, we're going to shake things up a little bit tonight because y'all know me, Wendy Stewart. But tonight we have our special guest host that you probably recognize as the Vice President of Triversity. Tonight we have the one and only Simone Krause. Welcome as guest host.
Thank you very much, Wendy. It's a pleasure to be here. Big shoes to fill. Actually, I'm on your side of the screen, so.
I know, Simone, I'm feeling like so discombobulated because I'm usually to the right and Steven's usually to the left, but there you go. You know, we're good. We'll work it all out. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Yeah, how is everything going with you, Simone? I know we just had the Transgender Day of Remembrance.
It went very well. We had a lot of people supporting it. We put the link up on our YouTube and our webpage. We had about 30 people show up.
Now you did this you did it at the Methodist Church.
Yes, we did.
In Milford, and you had Rabbi, of course, Frank there.
And Rabbi Frank, he did one passage about the Twilight people that literally blew me away and made me start viewing basically religious passages differently.
Wow, that to be affected to that degree. And I have to say, as somebody that I didn't get to go, but I got to view it online thanks to the amazing Mary Weber Krause who videotaped it. I loved your presentation, and what I loved about it, when you have the reading of the names, it's so somber, but you had something beautiful and light to say about each person. And that's how people want to remember things.
Well, people we need to remember these people, not in a sad thing. Like, when, like soldiers, we need to remember them for what they've done for us. They unfortunately, their lives were taken from them. But you have to remember their good parts, that light that they brought into this world. And I asked everyone there that night to just remember one name and hold that close to your heart for a while. And, and then they truly live and they're immortal then.
Right. Thank you. Right. And that really is what it's about. I always say it's not numbers. It's not, what is it? Something like 63 transgender people were murdered this year.
It was 54, and they just reported one that was in May. So it was 55 from last November 20th to this November 20th.
Right. But, that's a number, and we have to get out of these numbers and put faces and personalities on things. So I'm very excited. I want to tell our audiences watching, we are having our Triversity holiday party at Upfront Exhibition Space in Port Jervis, New York. So if you happen to be watching tonight, please make sure you come. You have to RSVP because of COVID, and we like to know who's coming, and you need proof of vaccine. And we start at 7:00 at night. Be there or be square. We're all looking forward to it. It's that time of year. Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho. So speaking of being excited, tonight's guest, the cat's out of the bag, personal friend of mine. But even beyond that, this person, I don't know how there's enough hours in the day because everything he touches, he makes happen. All right. He is a DJ, a producer, a performer, a poet, and a major, major activist, both here in the United States and abroad. So you know what? I can't say enough great things about this guy, but he's going to tell you all about himself tonight. Give a big round of applause to Chauncey Dandridge.
Hello.
Well, how are you?
I'm good. That was funny. I brought myself into the room.
I know. Can I share this with the studio audience? So Stephen had a conflict tonight and couldn't be here. And besides being the host, Stephen does all the technical stuff on the show. Chauncey does the technical stuff on my Wednesday show with Tim Moss, If These Walls Could Talk. So not only was Chauncey scheduled to be the guest tonight, but when Stephen couldn't make it, I said to Chauncey, do you mind producing yourself tonight? Chauncey, you're producing yourself.
I'm producing myself.
You're like self-producing.
I'm like one of those, did you read about those new organisms that they created that can actually reproduce? Everybody thinks that it's the end of the world.
Wait, I know, and I'm the person that knows about this kind of stuff. Can you share with everybody?
There's some sort of like a very small microorganism. What's funny is just because I'm Italian and I love food, they look like little garbanzo beans bouncing around, but they actually they're able to heal themselves and they're able to reproduce. But the article is very clickbaity where it says robots that can reproduce. So everybody's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. That sounds like it's actually just an organism that can, a man-made organism that can reproduce itself.
And you know where my mind's going with this? You said something, they can self-heal. Isn't that great? Maybe they'll find a way to harness, right?
Yeah. I mean, we self-heal, you know what I mean?
Right.
Our skin is our biggest organ, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I was thinking of mentally self-healing though. When people say I'm taking care of, right? I'm taking care of myself. I'm self-healing. Maybe all you'll have to do is inject one of these little microorganisms into yourself and voila, you will self-heal.
That's very 90s of you.
I'm down that whole science fiction route, which, okay, let me get out of that. So
you're going to end up proving Darwin was right.
Oh, yeah, right. Right. We're going to end up proving that Darwin was right. That's scary, Simone. It really is. Chauncey, first of all, I want to share with everyone before I get into the things I admire most about you. You are a DJ, a producer, a visual creator, and an artist, a poet. How do you and you're like this big burly guy, in my stereotypic head, right? And many people, when we hear of the poets and Renaissance, they're not big and burly, and this sensitive side to you has always fascinated me. Where does this come from?
I mean, I guess I'm a big teddy bear, right?
You're a big huggy teddy bear. Wait,
Well, I mean, I was very close to my mom as a kid. I had a lot of women around me growing up. My father's aunts, my great aunts, they lived across the street. My father's sister lived downstairs from me. So I always had pretty strong females around me. So I guess that led to me being more in touch with my feminine side, and seeing the struggle that they go through, because we were middle to lower class, and everybody in my family worked. Nobody was just like a trophy wife or anything like that. Everybody had to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, raise their kids. There's bad things happen to people. It was so there was a lot of pain growing up. A lot of people getting sick in my family. So there was always something to overcome. So maybe I never even thought of that until
while you're talking, and I'm thinking, Simone, there's probably some similarities in your background as well, right?
Oh yeah, I came from a blue collar family. My father worked in construction, supported 5 children and his wife, tremendous hours. He passed when I was 14. Oh, wow. So yeah, it's a struggle, but yeah, I was brought up. My mother raised me. I have 3 sisters. My mother was a strong woman. Her mother was very strong. In fact, her mother was alive for the blizzard of 1888 in Monroe, New York. So yes, understand where you get the empathy, from there.
Yeah, my mother passed when I was 19, so we have a similar story, just on the opposite side. Yeah.
Wow. So do you have brothers and sisters?
I have two brothers. One has kids, one doesn't. So yeah.
Yeah. So that you're three. Simone, how many were you?
I was the middle one of five.
Wow,
So
the
five.
middle one of five. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know that problem child. My
Right,
mother actually had a miscarriage, late term miscarriage before I was born. So now I find out that's a rainbow baby. So
Wait,
Okay.
what did they call it?
well,
What
they
did
talk about that if a woman has a miscarriage after her first child, the next child born after that is considered the rainbow baby.
Oh wow.
Wow. That's like I see. I
That
love
seems
doing
fitting.
I learned something all the time. So, growing up in your house now, Chauncey, I know we were talking earlier about garbanzo beans and being Italian, but I also know you to be Polish as well.
Mhm. Yeah, my mother was all Polish. My dad's all Italian. So I grew up with the Italian side.
Okay,
Um,
big
and
influence for you.
another thing that I was thinking is like, I grew up with so many people all around that I had to learn how to be alone in a crowded room kind of thing. So I guess that's where the creativity and my mind would venture off into, I could be, even today, I could be sitting in a room filled with people and I'm having my own good time in my head. You know what I mean?
When I watch you DJ at Stonewall or some of the other places, I love that you're telling this tonight because that's exactly what you do. You go into your own space and everything can be happening around you and you're just in the zone.
Yeah. Well, you have to concentrate, with technology and
right.
I mean, being creative, as much as it's a communal process, it really comes from each person, so.
Yeah, exactly. So, in your house that you grew up at, the Italian influence was big. I always think stereotyping again, Italian macho. When did you realize that you were gay?
Probably like somewhere between 11 and 13, I think. I used to, yeah, I mean, I always was a little, I always did things that the girls in my family would do. So I always knew I was a little off kilter, but like my brothers never teased me. Like no one ever called me any names really. I mean, I grew up chubby and I grew up fat, so I would get picked on for being that more than for being feminine. And I've seen when I used to watch old home movies, after my voice changed, I was like, oh my God, I was a big old homo. You know what I mean? I don't know if I could say that, whatever, but.
No, you could totally, that's what we talk about on this show. So you'd watch home movies and it became apparent to you. How old were you when we were watching the home movies that you
Well, I think it was when I became a teenager is when we would watch the old films and I was like, wow, how did they not know? Or I guess they knew and they just were cool about it,
Right. Really interesting. Yes, Simone.
Okay, I was wondering now, in your family, was it gravy or sauce? That's the big question everyone wants to know.
I mean, I think we called it both. I never understood the argument. We would I think it was sauce. I guess sauce, yeah.
Right. Okay, and then I got a question about the creativity that you have, because I know I have the same thing where I can go into that zone into myself. I did it a lot in my martial arts. Is there a certain time of day where you find that you're more creative?
Definitely after the sun goes down.
Okay.
And definitely closer to when the sun's about to come up. I'm very creative at 4, 5, 6 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I get up to write, and I'm most creative. Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Well, when I first moved to New York, I lived out in Rego Park, and because I grew up in New Jersey, so when I first moved to New York, I lived way out in Rego Park, and I worked in Chelsea at a restaurant, and my commute was pretty long. So we discovered what our favorite liquors were back then. So I would usually be drunk on the way home, and other things. It was the late 90s, early 2000s, so there was a lot of other things that we did other than drink back then. And I would write feverishly in a notebook on the way home. And sometimes I would, when I looked at it the next day, I was like, what the heck did I just write? But then I would kind of go oh, I know, okay. I get why I wrote that, because when you write, you're not writing, it wasn't a diary. I would write poetry and all that. So and I would just scribble it in my notebook. And I don't write in a notebook as much as I used to, and I miss that because I actually was writing a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't doing it right. Like I was forgetting how to write.
From being on the computer.
Yeah, from on the phone and typing and all that. Like I'm a good typer and I'm good on the phone typing and all that. But like I was like, oh, I don't really.
Everyone has a doctor's
I don't know what I
signature.
just wrote, you know.
Wow. That's really something for me. I have to do both.
Yeah, no, I made it a point to write more. You know what I mean?
It does start out with scribbling. Like I'm looking at the millions of little piles of little papers I have there. And then from that, I'll type it into my phone. And Chauncey,
I end up printing.
I never get to the computer.
I end up printing first. And, because the writing is just so terrible that I'm looking at an L, an E, and F. So I just print, and then I can put it in the computer. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's like we're losing the ability for script writing.
Well, my big question is, do young kids have a signature?
Oh, that's an incredible question. I wonder.
Like, I haven't signed a check in probably 3 years. I just deposit it, and it goes into my account, and it's fine. I haven't written my signature on the back of a check in probably 3 years. Because you don't have to.
Take it one step further. You're talking about his signature. Do young kids who are on computers all the time, are they ever going to learn cursive? And is it going to matter,
No, cursive is basically obsolete, But
yeah. It's like a lost language.
Well, how many times you have a package delivery and they give you the electronic thing, you got to sign it with your finger.
It's not your signature. You just do that,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it looks terrible.
That's still, I'm sorry. I've got to say, that's still weird to me with signing stuff with my finger. It's like, I might as well not sign it. I might as well say to the person next to me, could you sign that for me? It's ridiculous because it's not your signature. So what is it?
I mean, if I went slow, I can kind of do, my name.
Yeah. But you got those big bare hands, Chauncey. How do you do that? Those big bare paws. So, you started hanging out, like I know you grew up in Jersey.
Yeah.
How old were you when you started hanging out in the city? Yes, Simone's a Jersey girl.
I think like 16 we started taking the path. The path was a magical machine for us.
I love it.
Because it would take us, we would cut class in the afternoon and go buy Madonna CD singles from other countries, and so it was a way for us to escape. And I always make a funny story about it. When we used to wait for the train at Christopher Street to go home, we would see somebody that was upstairs, like all voguing or being super queenie, and as they walked through the turnstile, they transformed into like tough guy. And I was like, I always used to make a joke about the turnstile being magical because it could turn a femme into a butch like that.
That's actually genius. That would be a great.
I mean, they had to because if they lived in Jersey City or Newark, they couldn't. My friends had like Daisy Dukes on Sundays and big combat boots, and I was very preppy back then, so I was kind of like the security guard. I was like, I was very preppy. I had my hair parted on the side with a little flip, and I had my button-down shirt on and my jeans and my black shoes. So I was like the straight guy, so to speak, and like.
I know you're describing this, and I can't even picture you looking like that.
Having hair, right?
Parted on the side with a button-down shirt. It's like you're describing somebody else. I love the idea, though, of the transformation going through the turnstile.
Yeah, it was amazing because I would laugh because I would see it happen, and as they walked down the stairs, they were we used to call them banji boys.
Banji boys, of course.
Thing. So where in Jersey exactly did you grow up?
I grew up in Harrison by Newark.
Harrison, yeah, Harrison Gas was down there.
Yeah. So the path train stopped there. So
I actually had a bra client in Harrison. I had to take the train to Harrison.
Yeah, Red Bull Stadium.
Yeah. I hear Harrison. I think bras. Sorry.
It's completely unrecognizable the way it looked when I was a kid, though.
Right.
Like it's a former industry town.
Yes.
That was all empty factories and empty buildings when I was a kid, and then now, like Simone said, there's the Red Bull Stadium, there's high rises, apartment buildings, restaurants. I'm still friends with my friend Celeste, who I went to pre-kindergarten with, and every now and then we meet and have lunch in our hometown, and we just drive around and we're like, where are we? Where are we? Because it's a commuter town now. It's
Yes.
the perfect place to live if you work in New York. So.
Right. Yeah, it's very easy on the PATH train too.
Yeah.
Totally easy. So you said that you would be buying Madonna music. Did your love affair with Madonna start when you were like in your teens?
I think I always was a fan. My brother was a fan. But I think when Like a Prayer came out, it started to solidify. And then the Saturday morning I saw the Vogue video, I was completely that was it. And then from then on, it's been an obsession. Yeah.
Wow. And then that's really interesting to me because I met Madonna early on. Mm-hmm. I guess when you were an embryo, Chauncey. She was at Danceteria. And then, of course, I
was alive. I was just, like 5.
You were alive, but you weren't into Madonna. Then you were into like.
Well, I'm an MTV baby, so I did know of Madonna.
Yeah, you grew up on MTV.
Like MTV came out when I was 5 years old. So.
What was it about the Vogue video that just hit you so much?
It was probably. I'd already been. That was 1990, so I was 14. I'd already been active as a young gay boy, sexually, and it was the. I think seeing the gay people in the video was really like, oh wow, this is my thing. You know what I mean?
Right. It was something you could connect to.
Yeah, and and it wasn't such a secret anymore. Like, because what I was doing, I knew was really taboo. I'm fooling around with friends of mine, and not doing anything crazy, but just sexual escapades here and there. Like, not that many, but I was discovering myself and discovering what I liked and all that kind of thing. And that song, and then the Erotica album.
I love the Erotica.
Like my coming out album. So that period in her career will always be special to me.
Interesting.
She made you feel that she let you know that you were a weirdo and a freak, but she also let you know that it was okay to be that way.
Right.
It wasn't like she was saying like, it's okay. Like, you're not. She never said that you were normal. She just said your weirdness is okay too. Like, there's room for you,
So don't you think that, I'm going to hand you this hot potato. Didn't Lady Gaga try and do the same thing? You're shaking your head, Simone, when she, with Born This Way. Wasn't that trying to do the same thing?
Well, we'll just leave it as when someone writes an anthem for a marginalized group, it's not written for that reason. It's written from a place of honesty from the artist, and the marginalized group adopts it and takes it in. It's not like she wrote that with it in mind, so it doesn't have any weight for me,
Right.
Like, she said she was writing an LGBTQ anthem, and right then and there I was like, no, you're not. You just
fake. It's fake at that point. Yeah.
And it's basically no lie. It's you can express yourself over it. So it's kind of,
Right.
And people have some, Ariana Grande did a mashup of the two songs, and they blend perfectly. Madonna did it on tour. It's fine. I'm as a huge Madonna fan and kind of like a upstanding member of the Madonna fan community. I'm not really allowed to like Lady Gaga in public. I don't hate everything she does. I actually like a lot of the things she does. I just wish she was a little more like genuine.
Like not Madonna-esque.
Well, no, she's very different from Madonna. I
think so too.
She's her talents are different and all that kind of stuff, but I think she is one of those people who throws everything up against the wall and hopes something sticks rather than doing one thing and doing it wholeheartedly,
Well,
every musician has like a different, group that it attracts. And I always felt Lady Gaga was kind of took over for the people that were young that might have looked back at Madonna and said, well, I wish I was young then for that. So they kind of grabbed that.
Oh,
and
right. That group.
What you're going through is when you connect. I mean, I connected with Springsteen. I love that, talking about the grit and the dirt in New Jersey. I connected with that. But I connected more with Lady Gaga because that's when I started to come out later in life than I did Madonna. So it's what's in your heart that you connect with.
Yeah. But I think you both brought up a really good point. Validation, right? That these artists can give you validation as a person. No matter what you're feeling, they can make you feel okay. Whatever that normal is, which is not the standard normal. It's like your own brand of normal. So your love of Madonna, Chauncey, when did you start the Madonna parties? And I want you to talk about you did a big one in Portugal?
Yeah. I started a party called Beetlejuice at Nowhere Bar in 2009. And it was all music from the late 80s, early 90s. That was my parameter of what I would play, because I love like New Jack Swing, like when Janet Jackson first came out, Madonna, Paula Abdul, Jody Watley, classic house music. It wasn't classic house. When I was listening to it when it came out, it wasn't called classic yet, but so I love that genre of music. So I would that was a party. It was the first Sunday of every month at Nowhere Bar. And it started in January or February of 2009. That August, I did just all Madonna the whole night.
Wow.
And I called it, I think I called it Madonna Worship as like a tongue in cheek. And the following year I had it at Nowhere Bar. And I think Kobe Cole performed for the first time. We had the first.
Are you kidding? Oh my gosh.
Kobe Cole, and then Bear Donna used to perform at my Madonna parties.
You remember Bear Donna, Simone, right? Mary's yelling in the background. Yes, Bear Donna did. And I'm getting off track here, but the story's worth it. Bear Donna came to perform was it our Halloween party?
My Madonna mug.
Oh, I love the Madonna mug. Bear Donna performed at our Halloween party and wasn't scheduled to perform and came over to me. This was a couple of years ago. And you know how I am. A performer comes over to me and says, hey, I brought I have my music with me. Do you think I could perform? I'm like, oh yeah, sure. That would be really cool. Bear Donna was dressed as what? A mermaid that night? Simone, do you remember?
Yes, she was a mermaid. Yep.
A mermaid. So I'm like, oh, how cool. A bear that's a mermaid. I liked it. It was just enough out there for me. It was feminine. It was bearish. It was all good till Bear Donna got up there and started singing the words to the song.
Oh, yeah. It was like an R-rated, and we were looking for a heavy PG at the best, and the R-rated.
Yeah, it went so R that there were some people that had brought like younger, like teens and stuff there and everything. Yeah, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
The lesson I learned is something you probably know. You always preview what the talent hands you to play. You know that. And well, for you, it doesn't matter because you'll play all this stuff, right? But like for the audience that night, that wasn't a smart thing to do. Oh, well.
Yeah, no, I mean, Bear Donna's amazing, but he's not for everyone.
So Bear Donna performed at one of your first things, and Kobe Cole, who's amazing, whose show I was in the other night. I don't know how long Kobe's been doing this for.
Oh, like at least 20 years or longer.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Such an incredible talent. So you had those two there, and who else?
They used to just be my that was when I was at Nowhere Bar. I would just have like one like surprise performance, one special performance, and then when I started working at Stonewall, we did it there, and I decided to do. I didn't do it this past year because of COVID. It was just kind of winding down, but I was doing a 2-hour fundraiser concert before the actual party, and we would donate to different charities every year. Like one year we did Anti-Violence Project. One year we did Gays Against Guns. So everybody would reinvent Madonna songs. I'd get like 10 people to do their own version of they'd all pick a song. It was drag, it was live music, it was a combination of everything. And then at 10 o'clock, we would kick off the party, and it would just be all Madonna all night. And I'd have little performances here and there, but it was mostly just a dance party.
Simone, I met Chauncey at a Madonna party that Chauncey was giving at Rock Bar.
Can you believe that was only 2 years ago?
Oh, well, here's what happened. When COVID hit, I went down a rabbit hole, and I tell everyone the story. I went down a rabbit hole, and everything in my world changed. It's been like Alice in Wonderland for me. Time for me is totally different. The people in my life, and we're talking like a ton of them, are none of the people that were here before. What I do and how I make money now is very different than what I did before. And it's very disconcerting. For me, it was like moving to a foreign country and waking up there and every day just trying to grasp, looking for a Burger King when you're in the middle of the bush, right? Because I work in Africa. That's what it's like when you're looking for anything that you can identify with. And then there's nothing. And it's all cool. It's all good. But yeah, when you say to me, do you believe that was only 2 years ago? Yeah, I do. We're all living our lives here as best we can. And Simone, you'll agree with this. There's all kinds of transitioning that has happened to people we know, your own life, right? And that can be defined in many ways.
Oh yeah, I mean, the transitioning for people, what they get out of life and how. I mean, I know, like, I would run down the farm sometime just to get a coffee, and you could hear the chatter. Not that I really cared about what they were talking about, but you had interaction with the rest of the world, and now that was gone.
Right.
And then you had that little bubble, so then you had to pick out who you wanted to be in your bubble and whether or not you could trust them so you didn't get sick. And we've now shrunk our world so much for our own selves that sometimes it's hard to start expanding out again once things start to open up.
Well, like Chauncey will tell you, in the city, we're very open here. And we were not, like, you were shut down at Stonewall for how long, Chauncey? 3 months? How long was Stonewall shut down for?
Just like 2.5, 3 months, I think.
Yeah, around 3 months, right? So yeah. Simone, in that 3-month period, it was very weird in New York with the isolation. But I got to say, they got things up and running here in like no telling flat. I remember when you went back to work, Chauncey, and it was all weird at Stonewall, okay? Because you had to buy a hot dog. That's the thing that was so bizarre to me. You couldn't drink. You had to buy a hot dog or what was the choice, Chauncey?
Salsa. It was just so bizarre because it was like,
so bizarre.
I guess they thought that would make people stay in their seat or something. I don't know.
It was so weird.
I don't know what the business meeting or like the behind closed doors meeting was about that. Like, oh, let's make them order food,
Right, but it was the choice of food. And honestly, Simone, every place you went to, they all had the same weird choice of food. Like how the hot dog became the mainstay during the pandemic. Oh my God, y'all made me think of a great parody. I have to write that one. But it was like all of a sudden the hot dog was the go-to food. I can't even get into that. Or
it was easy to you leave them in a pot for hours.
Right.
I never thought I wonder. I would love to know how many hot dogs I ate that summer though.
It was a big hot dog summer.
It was a hot dog summer because we would be working like 10, 12 hours a day, and we didn't really get a chance to take a break. I was hosting. I wasn't even DJing. And we were starving. We would just run, grab a hot dog, put it in a napkin, and then go run in the back and like shove it down our throat and then go back to work,
Chauncey, what do you think it is about you that you're probably one of the most resilient people that I know. Your talents go in a lot of different areas. And for the most part, you never bitch, you never moan, you produce. Okay. You produce, you do the thing. What makes you such
I bitch and I moan. I just don't.
But you keep it to yourself. I know you bitch and moan about me sometimes. You're like, stop talking, Wendy. Stop talking.
Shut up, Wendy.
Stop it, Wendy.
I don't know. I always feel like I'm in a race against time.
Oh, like girl.
I don't know how to. I don't know how to. I know how to relax, but I don't know how to not do anything.
That's because you're a creative person, right? That's what
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
talking about.
it's not only that. It's just I always feel like, oh, I should be doing this, or oh, I should be doing this, or I should answer this email, or I should do this. But I am learning as I'm getting older, and actually, my ex-boyfriend taught me how to just stop and just watch TV. Like, there's even times where I'll come home and I'll watch TV, but I'm also like texting or like responding to emails, and I'm like, no, watch the movie.
Wow.
Like, I have to like remind myself, like, just stop. And I'm getting much better at that. I'm getting good, and it's actually making me more productive when I go back to doing the work, because I'm giving myself that like
The space.
that break, Yeah.
How do you keep from I'm asking you this question because I suffer from this. I don't ever stop. I continually crank it out. I can't watch TV because I feel guilty. Because how do you get around that when, as creative people, there's always stuff we can be doing. How do you do that?
The only thing I feel guilty about is not able to, like, because my schedule is like, I have one day off a week, and like I'm off today, and I had a couple Zoom calls, and then I have this, so like I'm never really completely off, which none of us are. But the only thing I feel guilty is that I'm not able to go and support my friends as much as I would like to. Like,
well,
and I do, when I do go to like one of my friends' drag brunches, or when I do show up at an event, they're so happy to see me because they don't see me ever.
Special.
Because I'm usually stuck at work.
Right.
So maybe the solution to that would be like to work on getting a slightly different job where I could have my nights off, and I could actually go and see other artists perform. But when I do have my 1 or 2 days a month where I have an all-out great time, and that gets it out of my system.
Well, I need to know what an all-out great time is for you. I've never seen that side of you, Chauncey Dandridge.
Really?
Never.
I think it's just me putting my phone on airplane mode and leaving it in my pocket,
That's great. That's an all-out great time.
No, it means that I'm present wherever I am, and I'm watching a show, and I'm not the kind of person who sits and films a concert. I might do a 10-second little, oh, I'm here, and then whatever. But and my other thing too, because I've been in every role of a production, from stage manager to writer to actor to singer to front of house. I've tech, this, blah, blah, blah.
You've done everything.
When I go see a show, I'm pretty sure I enjoy it more than most people.
Because
I look at I look at the curtain moving. I look at the lighting board guy. I look at the lights. Did they come on at the right time? I appreciate every aspect. Like when I go see a Broadway musical, it's so perfect. It's kind of annoying, like in a way. Like it's so over rehearsed and flawless that there's no room for any kind of like magic to happen. So that's why I prefer to see like off Broadway shows, or see like just a guitarist at a pub, because it's guttural.
It's what you call organic. I mean, you have the moment happen. You're right. A Broadway show is entertaining. I'm not a big. This sounds terrible. Not a big fan of Broadway. I love performers. I love watching performers.
Yeah.
I love the whole process of a production, but I also love the imperfection of an off-Broadway show. And I love the imperfection, right, Simone, of a black box, of watching people create art. Right. When they create art in a black box.
When I went to Rutgers in Newark, our theater was a black box theater. So that was where I got my training.
It seems like what you're talking about is the difference between like a machine-made knife and one that a blacksmith makes.
Thank you.
With the blacksmith, you can see the work. You can see any little differences. But the other one is just so perfect and machine done, and every step is the same.
Yeah, it's far from unique. Yeah.
You can't see the individuality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes when things are rough around the edges, for me, it's absolutely far more interesting. I can honestly say, I get somewhat bored at Broadway shows. I sit there, I can watch it, but it's nothing like going to the, stuff that my friends do, and they are flawed. It's great. I love looking at the flaws. I love life's imperfections.
Yeah.
So Chauncey, with the way you view the world visually, how do you connect that to the fact that you are, I know you're a very sensitive guy. You don't look it, by the way, but you're very sensitive. How did that get you so aware that you became such an activist? Because I do want to talk about that.
I think, nobody has the perfect life growing up, and everyone has, I always had food. I always had, I started working early, like all that, like, typical middle to lower class, I guess, growing up, whatever. But I never really had to struggle. I never got disowned by my family. I never got, and I was always that kid who helped the neighbor down the block pick up her groceries. I was just
I think Simone, you were that kid too.
I just wanted to help people. I wanted to
Yes.
I always helped my mom with laundry. I helped my mom with the groceries. Like I always, if I was able to help, I would help my friends' mothers do their dishes, and clean the house. Like I guess I'm a young soul as much of an old soul. Like when people say, "Oh, you're like an old soul," I'm like, no, because I still live through life like a kid.
Right.
But I always, the activism comes from, because I never had a horrible life. I didn't have a perfect life, and I'm not going to say that I, had.
No, of course.
Soon. My growing up was very weird, just like most people's. But I always want to, if I can make someone else's time less painful, why not do it?
Wow. That I wish I could write that down. That's really well put.
You have a great level of empathy.
Yes.
So you can put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
And you can just help and make their day a little bit easier, a stranger or whatnot. I mean, I read a book called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and being in service to others literally changed my mind, that thinking. And that is the same type of thing that you're doing.
Yeah. And also, the weird thing is, I don't know if when you're a kid and I'm like the baby of 3. So, and I was 6 years younger than my next brother. So I was definitely another generation. I was the youngest in my family for a good amount of time. And so I was always kind of like the protected one, or but I was always, I always wanted to be alone. I was just to make excuses why I didn't go hang out with my friends. I was I just want to be home. And I would either write or read or do other things. But,
Stuff.
where was I going with that? There's a good point. I was
well, how Simone had brought up about becoming empathetic.
Oh, yeah. So I used to, obviously create a lot of fantasies in my head and create a lot, you daydream and this and that. When I'm out in public and I'm on the train, I will feel something, an unsettling feeling. And then I'll look to the other end of the train and I see that someone's sad or mad or upset. I can feel those spikes of energy from people.
Right.
I know when someone's upset. I know I said, what's wrong? I've asked people, what's wrong? I know something's wrong. And they're like, how did you know that? I'm like, I have a weird sixth sense about that,
So you obviously believe in that, right? That's
I don't think, we're not just our bodies, we're our physical body ends here, but if you're jubilant about something, it's infectious. The reason why people say that is because you're shooting all this joyous energy out of you.
Yeah.
And the person sitting next to you can't help but feel it. Because we're not just, we have stuff shooting off of us at all times.
Right. We're all energy, and we have energy coming out of all of us. Were you aware of this ability when you were a child to empathize in a way that other people couldn't?
I was always the person people came to I should have been a psychiatrist or like a psychologist, because I was always the person people came to for advice, or to like told the secrets to, or like confided in. And I always like, even today, like I'm a little more of like the tough love type now, because I feel like as you get older, like you can't really like sugarcoat things as much, especially in this day and age of like everyone whining on social media and looking for attention. You have to just get right to the point and say,
but as Chauncey is
do this, you know.
Do you feel that you have to have armor? You can't let that in. You reach a certain age where it's like too much of that stuff is not good for you.
There are times where, especially because I work in the public with you know, in nightclubs and stuff, there are times where I leave work and I'm just drained. Not because I'm physically tired, but just like all the energy from coworkers and all the energy from people on the train and people asking for money and people not holding the door for you and people doing this and people doing this and or people like, and then you get that one message from somebody you hadn't heard from in a while that kind of like counteracts all the bad stuff, you know? And, you know, the good stuff is always more powerful than the bad stuff. So.
Right. But sometimes, you know, as people, especially when you're an empath, it can get all mixed up. And, you know, it's up to you to realize that's happening. So
well,
I would say like
the universe reaches out to you once in a while and has to tap you on the shoulder and say, yo, wait a second, get that out of your head. You do have it good, you know?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I work hard. I never, like, I don't have big wants. Like, I'm not like I'm easily satisfied when it comes to like, I love traveling now. I just started traveling. Obviously I haven't been able to do that as much, but the things I like are not caviar, dreams, and champagne and all that. Just give me a good cheeseburger. You know what I mean? Like I'm more like I'm not. My tastes aren't so grand. You know,
highfalutin,
yeah.
as they say.
Yeah, it's high with all the hot dogs.
Yeah, I love hot dogs.
I love it, Chauncey. Thank you.
No,
Great,
thank you.
Great night, Simone. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Next time we'll let you talk more, Simone.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much, Chauncey, for
you're our guest,
your activism to light to everybody.
Thank you,
and especially for Africa. Because once I heard about this, I read about it. It just ripped my heart out.
I know.
Thank
you. Simone, I'm going to add one more thing in because Chauncey does not pat himself on the back. He gave the fundraiser at Stonewall. He had a whole bunch of us do performances. We had a show, okay? And it not only did it raise awareness, it raised some money, but he also live streamed it into a refugee camp. And I never heard of anybody doing that. And I'm pretty out there, okay? Right. Where, you know, Chauncey, where that really, really made a difference, you let each and every person there, now they were with us, okay? Yeah. We might have been in New York and they might have been there. What you do for a person's spirit by doing something like that, that was everything. And I highly encourage you, if you want to raise awareness for there, I'll be a part of it. When I first met Babs and she told me what she was, I thought, what am I going to do? I have no idea how I can help. How am I going to help them? What am I going to do? Yeah. You know, send money. We all send money. But the fact that you took the performance community and you made this whole thing where we were all aware of what was going there, and then they knew about us. It's brilliant. And you're going to let me know when the next one is.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, Chauncey, just hang out when we're done because I always take a picture, you know.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.